Week 13, lesson 2. Okay, so this particular lesson is going to be on analyzing the equation of trig functions, okay, which means this up here, and being able to sort of describe the graph without graphing it, okay? So in that purple box, you need to sort of envision any one of the 6 trig functions, right? So this blank right here could be filled with cosine or sine or tangent or secant or cosecant or cotangent, right? Any of them. That's why there's a blank, right? You can just sort of fill it in. And then each of the letters that you're seeing over here, the A, B, and the C, and the D, they determine certain things about these graphs. Okay, A is amplitude. B helps you determine the period, but there's like a little formula that you have to do. C determines whether it moves left or right. It's kind of the opposite of what you think it's going to be, and that's because it's in parentheses. All right, and then D determines the vertical shift, whether it's been moved up or down. Now, couple things. Sometimes the equation is not given exactly in these forms. You may have to sort of manipulate it. Make sure you do that before you determine what A, B, C, and D are. All right, and then the last thing that you're going to have to fill in on these charts is you'll also have to fill in the Y-intercept, which you get by letting x equal 0. All right, so let's get to the first example. Okay, so I'm going to sort of rewrite this so that it looks more like the other problems. So I'm going to write this as 2 cosine 1 x minus 0 minus 1. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that, why I'm adding in the zeros and I'm adding in the ones, is that it's easier now to see this and what A, B, and C are. Okay, so hopefully you can see now that A is 2, B is 1, C is 0, and D is -1. Okay, so that's why I, in particular, write it that way. Okay, so now let's just fill in this chart. The period you find by doing 2 pi over B. In this example, B is 1. So 2 pi divided by 1, that's just 2 pi. All right, the y-intercept you get by letting x equal 0. So let's go to the original and plug in 0. So now I have y is equal to 2 times the cosine of 0 minus 1. Sorry, that's a 0. Let me erase that. I just realized I wrote that incorrectly. There we go. It's cosine of 0. There we go. Okay, so the cosine of 0 is 1. So now I've got 2 times 1 minus 1, or 2 minus 1, or 1. So when x is 0, this function has a value of 1. Okay, amplitude goes with the letter A, it's 2. The phase shift goes with C, and in this case C is 0, so there is no phase shift. It doesn't move left and right. And then the vertical shift goes with D. D is -1. That means this is moving down 1 unit. Okay, let's try another. Again, I got 4 of these. Hopefully at that point, it'll make a bit more sense. Okay. So on this one, A is 1, B is 1, C is pi over 2, positive, and D is 0. Okay, so when I go to fill in my chart, period is 2 pi over B. So for this particular example, that makes it just 2 pi. To find the y-intercept, you let x equal 0. So let's see, y is going to equal the sine of 0 minus pi over 2, or the sine of negative pi over 2, or -1. So 0, -1. Okay, amplitude is just 1. The phase shift, all right, since this is positive, this is moving to the right, pi over 2. And the vertical shift, there isn't one. moving on to the next example. And actually, before I do this example, let's go back to these pictures. Okay, now on some of these, it's very easy to see an amplitude, right? For example, on sine, it goes up to 1, it goes down to -1. That's the distance from center up and down. But these other ones, right, like tangent, cotangent, cosecant, and secant, and I circled those in the wrong order, I'm sorry, but they don't have an amplitude, right? This goes up forever. This goes down forever. You're never going to reach a maximum distance from the center line. Likewise, these go up forever, these go down forever, no amplitudes on these. So when you go to do example 3 and you see the word cotangent, you can immediately write none in for amplitude, okay? Even though there is an A of -1. Okay, again, even though you see that there's an A value right here of -1, because it's a cotangent, there's no amplitude. Okay, B is 1, C is -pi/2. Again, watch the signs. And D is -2. Okay, so here we go. The period here, 2pi/b, makes this just 2pi. Next, for the y-intercept, I have to let x equal 0. So I've got negative cotangent of 0 plus pi/2 minus 2. That's negative cotangent of pi/2 minus 2. That is negative, let's see, the cotangent at pi/2. Here's pi/2, that's 0, 1, it's 0. So it's -0 minus 2, or in other words, -2. All right, the phase shift is left because of the negative, left pi/2, and the vertical shift is down, all right, and it is down because of that negative, down 2. All right, one last example, okay, and this one I probably should really talk about a lot, well, not a lot, but there's a couple things that I'm hoping you're seeing. First thing, there's a 2 on the inside in front of the x. And if you look back here, right, if you look in here, oh, sorry, just made you all dizzy. If you look in here, notice that in all of these cases, there's a 1 in front, which means I'm going to need to sort of adjust this equation. So let me get back over there. Okay. So I'm going to factor out the 2 so that my equation looks like this. -2 cosecant of 2. Now you're factoring out a 2. This becomes x minus pi/4. If you're not getting that, if that doesn't make sense, ask me in Zoom. All right, so now I have an A value, I've got a B value, I've got a C value, I've got a D value, and I can automatically write none in here because this is cosecant. Okay, here we go. The period is 2pi/b, in this case 2pi/2, which equals pi. Let's plug in a 0 to figure out the y-intercept. So -2 cosecant of 2, 0 minus pi/4 plus 1. So -2 cosecant of 2 of negative pi/4 plus 1. Now I'm going to have to actually multiply that. So 2 times negative pi/4 is negative pi/2 plus 1. The cosecant at negative pi/2 is -1. Right? It's the reciprocal of the sine. So then this becomes what? 2 plus 1, so it becomes a 3. So 0, 3. All right, the phase shift, it's moving to the right, pi/4. And as far as the vertical shift, it's moving up 1.